Okay, so we have done now basically the 2 lines of the ships, the 2 ships, and is everyone happy with this overview, with the results? Do the waymarks and the connection to the different stations and places, do they make sense to you? Or you have some questions where you say, I'm not convinced, I didn't understand, I don't know. Basically what we were dealing with towards the end of the last presentation was this situation here, where we had drawn this line, a rough sequence of events that we could, in a preliminary way, we could see. Verse 27, verse 14, verse 13, we saw the south wind connected to 989. Saw the east wind connected to 911. And in verse 27, then we saw midnight. We connected this to midnight or to midnight cry. All right? So once we were progressing in our story, we could find those events and we could definitely put them in their place, connected them to the places. Lasea, 1989, Euroclydon, 911, east wind. And then we have in verse 27, midnight cry. We came to the conclusion that this is the midnight cry, and verse 21, midnight. What was the logic? Why do we say one is midnight, the other is midnight cry? How do we come to this understanding? Can someone please try to rephrase the logic?
I think you had said that something else was happening in verse 27, whereas in verse 21 to 26 was a repetition of a message that had already been given by Paul to the people on the ship. I think I can't recall the verse, I think it's in verse 10. So this is some minute, some previous verse Paul had given them a message before, between 9/11 and where you have midnight on the board. So at verse 21 to 26, Paul was giving them a reminder of what was going to happen, how the ship was going to crash, but they would be saved. And then in verse 27, so verse 27 tells you like the time of period that had passed between when the first message was given and the second message was given, I think. That's how I understood it. Because verse 27 says, but when the 14th night was come, so some time had already passed.
Yes.
And I think he made the application to the Miller's line where he said that the midnight, Boston was, the camp meeting that was held at Boston was the one that was associated with midnight. I can't remember what it is for.
Concord.
We don't have that in our line. And then E, I think, is
Exeter.
Exeter, yeah, where the message that had been given before at Boston and even at Concord was now fully understood, was more fully understood, I should say, and perhaps even accepted more so at Exeter.
Yes, you're describing a lot of things that we have been saying, we've been seeing here. I think this is all correct. Nevertheless, I would like you to explain a little bit more why verse 27 is the midnight cry and not midnight, because it's midnight in the verse, right? At midnight, verse 27 happens. So why do we say this is the midnight cry? And why do we place the midnight to verse 21? Why at verse 21? Can someone try? Yes?
In verse 27, well, it doesn't say it there, but in the following verse it says that they're going to sound how close they're getting to land.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a cry. What are you saying?
Okay. Perhaps first question, what is the structure of the midnight cry? The structure of the midnight cry in the mirror time period, for example. How does the midnight cry look like? And I do not mean all the steps of the development with Samuel Snow, when he wrote the letter, when the letter was published, etc. Not all these details, but the midnight cry. So we have here April 19, and we have October 22nd, right? My sister, what do we have in the middle of this? August 15. You all agree? Close, I think. July 20. 21. Yeah, I think 21. By the way, does this one irritate you?
No.
No?
It's like a 7 right there.
Look like a 7, right? Okay, this is the European one. Okay, I tried to make this one here, the American one. July 21 is the middle, and therefore, how is this waymark called? Midway, and midnight. Midnight and midway. Okay. Why is it the middle of the night? Where does the night begin?
At midnight, at 12. Well,
Then it couldn't be midnight. It's not the middle of the night when the night begins at 12.
yeah. No, that was just to answer your question. But in this regard, it's actually in the middle between those 2 dates you have on that.
Yes.
April 29 and April
Where does the night begin?
April 19.
Yes, this is the beginning of the night.
Yes.
Exactly. And this is the end of the night. And this is the middle of the night.
That's right.
All right? Okay? Prophetically, this is the end of the day has a day and it has a night part, right? And this is the night. No? And this is the middle of the night. This is July 21. This is what happened in July 21. You have continue to tell us the story here. What happened in July 21? There was exactly. There was the conference in Boston. Snow presented his message, the Midnight Cry message. All right. Then, how does it continue? How was it received? Not much reception, right? Sister, you remember? How does the story continue? Next event?
Concord.
There's a Concord. There's another. What was Concord? What happened there? Concord is the city or the place.
Guess there was another camp meeting.
Yeah, a camp meeting again, right? Who spoke?
Snow.
Snow. What did he present? The same message, right? When was that?
August.
Exactly.
I guess.
1st of August. And then? Then we have August 15. Another camp meeting, Exeter. But this event here is a special waymark. Why? Or what is it called? What is this waymark here? It's the midnight cry. Why is it the midnight cry? This is when the message was perceived as the midnight cry, right? When it was understood, when it was accepted, and when it was multiplied as a cry throughout the world. Okay? It became a cry. Okay, so this is the logic of the midnight cry, what was I trying to say, what I was trying to transport to our history. So, when we have verse 27, we have the situation that the ship is about to make shipwreck. Everybody is aware of this. They are just trying to understand how long will it take until the ship hits the ground. This is why they're making these measurements. So in this history, how would you describe this? What did they do in this history in parallel to what we are reading here? What did the Millerites do? Same thing, they did the same things as they did here. But how would we put it in our words for this history? Same setting, yes? They tried to find out, and they found the time of October 22nd, which is the parallel to the shipwreck in this history. The door closes when everything ends. All right? So this is the time. We also can put a T here. This is the time. There's the time setting here at this place. And then it's like it becomes an evident message. Everybody sees it, everybody believes it. Okay, the people, they do not doubt any longer. They're ready to hear now what Paul is saying. But before that, briefly before that, Paul, what did he do in verse 21 to verse 26? He gives a message.
He said it again, that it was meant to be a shipwreck.
Yes, exactly. Just briefly before it happens. When does he say it the first time? Right, yeah, that's what we put here, 1989, right? So this is what? This is the first angel's message. In this Miller time period, when did Miller tell them the world the first time that there will be shipwreck? Miller. Now we're trying to parallel the Miller history now with Acts 27 to understand the events. 1843?
I think so. No, that's not right.
So we are looking on what is the midnight cry message, or what is in this case the second angel's message. What was the message? Shipwreck. Yes, close of probation, door closes. What did Miller tell the world? Jesus is coming. Exactly. When did he start to preach this?
1821.
Exactly. I do not want specifically the date, but yes, exactly. In the 30s he started to preach. Yes, from the very beginning, in the first angel's message time period, he started to preach, like Paul, like here, 1989, time of the end. So since the message is the same since the beginning, the end is coming, the door is closing. So this message is being repeated over this whole period, yes? But here in this situation of the midnight cry time period, just briefly before, he tells them again, an angel came. He was told, he saw this will happen, the ship will break, etc. So there is another message, other than this message here, 989. There's another message just briefly before this event, where they measure the time or the distance to the shipwreck, right? So what event can this be? Because this event is in harmony with this event. The proclamation is in harmony with this proclamation. Has to be the midnight event. Has to be parallel to Boston. Yes? Because it was not accepted here. Yeah, people heard it, but what did they do? Right? It did not have the effect, the impact as when it comes to verse 27. You see what I mean? So we find the word midnight in verse 27. We cannot be sure at the moment if it's at the very first time we read it, if it's midnight cry, and then we have to relate it to the midnight history in order to see what here was going on. So it has to be the midnight cry, while the activity of Paul briefly before it has to be midnight. Does this make sense, or did I make it too complicated? Please, sometimes, or not sometimes, after every class there are some very interesting questions. You come to me and ask me things. I'm happy about it, but I wouldn't mind if you ask in class. So everybody can participate, because it's really interesting, I think, for everyone. So if you have questions, I invite you to ask. And it doesn't matter if you don't understand little things, because this is why we're here.
What's that T on top of the obviously that's kind
Time.
of setting yourself
Time.
thing, right?
Yes.
And yeah. So in verse 27 / 28, that's when they're able to ask, they're
Yes.
trying to determine the time in terms of the distance from.
And let's have a look at that, because we haven't seen that yet. Can someone please read verse 28?
Verse 2.
28.
And sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone
Please include verse 27 also, so we have the context.
27. Now when the 14th night was come, as we were driven up and down in Adria, about midnight the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again, and found it 15 fathoms.
You can read 29.
29. Then fearing lest we should have fallen upon rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern, and wished for the day.
Okay, now they react, right? The message now, they're convinced, they react. So this is the effect of the midnight cry. It happens at midnight. Okay, and what we have here is they measure, they sound it. I don't know exactly how this works. Technically, I don't know if anyone has knowledge of how this works. I don't know exactly how this works, but there's a way to measure how deep the water is. So they use this method.
They let a rope down with a weight on it, and it has knots tied every so many feet. And so they count the knots to know how deep the water is.
Okay. All right. Would make sense. Yes. Okay. So what they see is that it is, how deep is it? In the first instance, 20 fathoms, right? And then 15 fathoms. Now 1 fathom happens to be 72 inches. So 20 fathoms is how much? Or how many inches? It's 1,400. Is correct? And 15, yes, 15 is 1,080. And if you multiply this, how much do you have? How much do you get?
1,555,200.
2, 5. Correct?
If you add it,
If you add it, I'm sorry, multiply. Sorry for that. If you add it,
The depth of the water?
huh?
You're measuring the depth of the?
Yes.
I thought it sounds like they're measuring the distance from the shore.
From the shore. Yes. Sorry. I think this is correct. what you're saying. Oh, no, wait a minute.
How
It's
deep?
that they don't know how far from shore they are.
Yes, exactly. Because of the depth of the water,
No, how
they know how close they are to the shore.
To see if they can
Well, then
swim
what
or
did they
not.
sound for? It sounds like when they say sounded, they yelled or something and based on the echo or something.
Yeah, this is what I was asking. I was not sure.
Sailors have crazy terms.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. They use weird words for different things.
All right.
The Navy still does it today.
Sorry, what does that mean in the concordance and the Strong's, the word sounding? What's that like?
No, I see your point, but I think what he's saying is to measure the depth, because if you read the story, you want to see how deep the water is, to see if you can swim or not. I mean, I don't know. That makes sense or not.
If you hit,
The water is not too deep, okay, because they know they're gonna crash, so
Oh, no, that's
you
fine.
jump out and swim if it's not too deep.
The word sounded, so. I don't
The-
understand how that makes sense.
The definition says to heave the lead, to take a sounding, a line and plummet with which mariners sound the depth of the sea. It has nothing to do with hearing.
So that also means they did cry.
Hmm?
That also means they did cry.
Well, they were telling people how deep it was. You tell the captain.
they do not necessarily need physically to cry
Right.
here at this point, right? To measure the distance to the shore or to the ground in order to see how close they're to the shore, they measure this distance in order to know when the ship will hit the ground or the shore. So what they actually trying to find out, what they say is that we are that close to this event or to this date, and this is what the midnight cry is. We have so many days till the Lord is coming. So this is a cry. Yes.
The sound.
Something else
So
is
what
came to
happens
mind.
is that from Wikipedia, it shows that they use a sounding line when they're measuring the fathom, and that sounding is not related to the word sound in the sense of noise or tones, but to sound a geographical term. Then you can read in Wikipedia. A sounding line is a length of a thin rope with a plummet, generally of lead, at its end. So it's like a plumb.
Isn't a plummet and a line used to measure something else somewhere in the Bible?
Yeah, to measure how the depth of an object.
Yes, I think we have this several times. Hosea. Yes. So the Lord will lay the plummet on you. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense what you were saying in regards to determine how far you are from the shore. You want to see how deep the water is also, because as you get closer to the shore, the water is less shallow. Like it says, you checked it the first time, they were, I don't know what the term is, 40 deep, and then they checked, and the next time it was less, 18, 20 deep. So the water, they're getting closer to the shore, so the water is getting shallow. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that makes sense.
And doesn't a line and a plummet, isn't that type of measurement judgment?
Say it again.
Judgment, a line and a plummet measuring about the
Hmm?
judgment. That don't make sense now.
No, it does,
Because
because Sunday is some kind of judgment in a way.
I'm also looking at it from the 25
Yeah, this is what I wanted to come to.
The measure, like if you add the 2, 25, 20, after that the judgment is coming. And what the middle is.
Mm. It's not coincidence, right? That the measurement here adds to 25-20. And This is one of the topics that we will address here also in class, either Brother Tabo or myself, the 2520. And we had an understanding that we had been preaching for many years. But recently we had a closer look on the 2520, and we say it differently now. There's a logic. If you read closely and if you study the history of Leviticus, what Moses was saying, what he was intending to say, and then the events connected to it, then you understand that the 2520 is a punishment. Yes, definitely it's a punishment. It's a punishment after punishments that had already come. And I think we remember this. If you don't do this and this and this and that, then I will do this and this and that. And if you still do not hearken unto my words, then I will punish you 7 times. So there is the Lord has been punishing, and then He has given people time to decide, to correct their course, and they didn't, so He punished again, and this punishment is final. Right? And this is what is happening here. I think this is how we can definitely relate this 2522 to this measurement that they are taken. It's a measurement. The 2520 has to do with measuring time, because it's related to the Sabbath that the people haven't been keeping. So according to the Sabbath that they haven't been keeping, the punishment will be laid out on them. As many Sabbaths they didn't keep, the Lord will recover through the punishment, the time of the punishment. Okay, so we have here this connection, and what else? I think this is, and then at the end, there's only one more waymark in this history, and this is the shipwreck, correct? And when is shipwreck? What event do you connect? What event do you suggest is the shipwreck? 1989, 9/11, midnight cry, and then this is what? Sunday law. And because of this conclusion, now the whole line becomes very interesting to us, because there's a problem embedded in this conclusion. And for this reason I need to draw some other lines here. I take away the upper part, and we keep the lower line. Because remember, the question was, like the headline or the title for this part of our studies was midnight cry, Sunday law, right? As a problem or as an error. Because if you go through the lines, and I need my little notes here just to make sure. These lines, like I told you the other day, I've been witnessing many changes in this movement, and I've been learning that you cannot rely on everything that you have learned. But we continuously need to be in a learning attitude, a process, and there are some things that we need to unlearn right now, and it's not an easy process, because if you learn things, you keep it and you share them, and then you can rely on that knowledge. I can't on everything, and so I need my notes as well as every one of us, I think. Okay, so I just want to go through these lines here quickly with you. I thought that Brother Tabo did this with you, but I think he did not. Go through the lines of the 144,000, the priests, the Levites, and the Nethinims. think these are more or less the waymarks. No, this one missing. I think it works like that. All right, so let us try to remember what are the main waymarks in the line of the 144,000. When does the line begin? 1989. When does the line of the priests begin? Same thing. What's the next waymark in the line of the 144,000? 2001, 9/11. And this then happens to be also the second waymark in the line of the priests, right? And I already laid it out this way. 9/11 becomes the first waymark for the Levites. In other words, what is this waymark here? Or we call this waymark? Time of the end. This is the time of the end, this is the time of the end, this is the time of the end, this is the time of the end. Okay? So this is a little bit tricky because we have to separate these terms. We always have to stay on the same level. These are the dates. Sometimes there will be names. And then we have what these dates mean. Okay? But we have to make a distinction. You cannot mix them up. What is the next waymark in the line of 144,000? No? Sunday law. The Sunday law. And after the Sunday law, what more two waymarks do we have? Yes. Probation clauses and the second advent or second coming. Make it shorter. Second coming. All right. So if we proceed in this line here of the priests, what would be the next waymark? Which is Sunday law. 2014. Okay, now this is this. All of them have 5 waymarks, 5 main or major waymarks. There's also the loud cry here, of course. We also the midnight cry here, but for now we keep these 5 main waymarks. Then, what is the next waymark? The close of probation. Do we have a date for our close of probation? 2019. So we keep the dates here, 2019. And then, what's the last waymark in our line? The second coming, but exactly. Second coming, then it's Panium. Okay, this is the time of the end. This we can call empowerment of the first angel's message, right? Sunday law, close of probation, second coming. Okay? So here we have the loud cry. And here, how is it called? No, it has to be here, right? Midnight cry. What's the difference between loud cry and midnight cry? Yes, it's just an internal cry and external cry. And when it's an external cry, we call it loud cry. When it's an internal cry, we call it midnight cry. All right, same thing, same waymark. So this line then is easier because they are just pushed, ahead one waymark. So the empowerment of the first angel's message for the Levites is when? for the Levites now. 2014, this is parallel, right? 2014. It's the empowerment of the first in this message. When is the Sunday law to them? No, sorry, this is the empowerment. Yes. When is their Sunday law? In this line. 2019 has to be, right? Same date, same event, but with different meaning for different groups. So I put them here parallel. 2014 also exists in this line, but it doesn't have a meaning for the 144,000, so to speak. 2019 also exists, but it is not a waymark for the 144,000. It's a waymark for the priests, or the Levites, or the Nethinims. Okay, and then we have the close of probation. When is their close of probation? The Levites. Penium, right? So we do not yet speak about dates. Yes, because we'll address this topic also why we do not speak about 2020 or 2021. There's a reason why we do not do so. Yes, we have some understanding about these dates, but we are in the midnight cry. And there's a present truth message, which is the midnight cry message. The midnight cry message identifies this date here. It does not identify any dates beyond. Okay, this is why we do not locate, but we understand it's Penium. All right, and then what is the second coming for the Levites? Then is, I think I did not draw this correctly. Yeah, this is the Sunday law. Sorry. So let me just correct the first line there. It's a little bit off. Sunday law here, close of probation, second coming. All right, so just to have the events lined up. These line up, these line up, these line up. And the last line, the last group, when was the time of the end for the Nethinims? 2014, it's easy. When was empowerment of first in this message for them? It will be, yeah, it is soon to happen. When is their Sunday law? Penium. When is their close of probation? The Sunday law. And when is the second coming for them? At the close of probation. So these are the waymarks. The waymarks mean something. If you would have another color, I would put it again here. Time of the end, empowerment of first in this message, Sunday law, close of probation, second coming. It's a little bit tricky because, you know, we have here close of probation, or we have Sunday law, and this is the Sunday law here, and this is the Sunday law here, but we have to separate, therefore, clearly, events from the meaning of the event. Do you agree? Do you see? Does this make sense? Is this what you have seen, what you have heard? Yes? Okay. So if you have this logic, then we come back to Acts 27. Where's the problem? Does anyone see the problem? Does anyone see the problem in Acts 27? And we could add did not cry here. midnight cry here. And then we should yes. So in this story, this would be midnight, right? And the loud cry. Loud cry is here, right? Loud cry. It's the midnight cry. Correct? So what is the problem? The problem is, anyone wants to say it? What did you say? The Sunday law. Which Sunday law?
We have the Sunday law on the line of 144,000. And we have midnight cry as a Sunday, and midnight as Sunday law. And then midnight cry, and then there's multiple quotation, but then on the Acts 27, the Sunday law comes after midnight.
Yeah.
Midnight cry.
Exactly. You see, you have here a sequence: midnight cry, Sunday law. Where do we have this sequence in any of these lines? Where do you have midnight cry, Sunday law here in any of those lines? You don't. Yes, it does not exist. So this sequence of events, midnight cry, Sunday law, which we see in this line, does not exist. So, but this is not correct? Or was it correct enough for you that you say, okay, I stand to this, but there must be some other explanation perhaps? Yes, Murad.
One, I mean, you've already mentioned that this is the line for the institution. On the line of 144,000, even though midnight and midnight cry aren't before Sunday law, Rafi and Peniam are, and the church as a whole is going to hear those messages. So I don't know so much that the line is wrong as the labeling might be.
Yes, one conclusion we draw from this. This is a line that we do not find here. Yeah? This line is the line of the 144,000. This is a group of people. This line is the line of the priest, which is a group of people. So are these two lines as well. Specific lines of specific groups of people. We made an emphasis in this study to distinguish this from these type of lines, because this is not the history of a group of people. It's the history of the institution, of two institutions, twin institutions, United States and Church. So therefore, we won't find this line here. It's just a different line. And this is interesting, because we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines, and we now have a 5th line. Okay? We just, to our canon of lines, we can add a 5th line, which we did not recognize before. So the study of Acts 27 just added a new line that we incorporate in the logic and in the parallel lines that we understand. Okay, this is one thing. The other thing is, if you look at this, you have here midnight, you have here the midnight cry, and what comes after the midnight cry? Close of probation. Okay, this is what this means. What is this waymark? After this midnight cry, what is this waymark? What is this Sunday law for the Nephilims? It's their close of probation. After the cry comes the close of probation. What is Peniam for the Levites? It's their close of probation. All right? This is the second advent. This is the close of probation, so this is the close of probation. If we would have red or some another color, we would put it like You know, this logic you have to transport here. These are the events, but the meaning you have to transport here. It's a different meaning. The Sunday law is not the Sunday law. The Sunday law is the second coming. The Sunday law, so to speak, is just what happens in the world, is the external event. But for them, it means something very specific. For them, it means it's the second advent. All right? So this we have to distinguish very well. Yes? We have to separate it mentally, clearly, so we do not mix it up. For this reason, then, we also have to correct this here. This is actually not the Sunday law then, right? What is it? It's the close of probation. Okay, this is the point that I was trying to make. We have this logic in our minds from what we understood in our movement in the past. We have midnight, we have the midnight cry, and then we have the Sunday law. It is so well known to us. Yes, we incorporated this logic in our way of thinking. But if you try to find it and to show it in the logic of these lines, you can't find it. It's not existent. All right, it does not exist. This is one of the things that we need to learn or to unlearn. All right. So this is amazing to me. You can come to the conclusion and say, okay, something must be wrong in this line. But if you go through this line again and again, and then with the help of the other line as well, you see this line is correct. This is all correct, what's happening here. And rather of not being correct, we just have to recognize it's a new line. And it made totally sense because it's a different history of institutions.
Question?
Yes, please.
In the history of the Millerites, that's also called probation too, right?
Okay, the Millerites.
Yeah, so they had midnight and then their midnight cry. And like how, okay, rephrasing the question another way, what would we call October 22?
Let's do it.
It's a called appropriation, right?
What is this for the Millerites?
1798.
1798. What was this for the Millerites? 1840 or and 19th of April 44, right? What is this for the Millerites? What is midnight for the Millerites? We had it already, we just had it.
July 21.
Yes, July 21. When is the midnight cry for the Millerites? August 15. So what is the close of probation? October 22nd. All right?
That's what I was saying. That's what I thought it's supposed to be, but maybe it's not. But in my mind, that is correct. So I was saying all of that to say, if you look at the line of the Millerites, the close of probation is, which for them was October 22, is like you can use their line as an, I don't want to say as an example, but to parallel this other line which we just corrected, not being something like we close the probation. So, do you see what I'm saying?
No?
Okay, so I'm saying that
Sorry.
were we thinking that the line, like the Millerite line, was that we cannot use the Millerite line to be able to deduce that, in fact, where we crossed out the Sunday law as not being the Sunday law but close of probation, like we could have used the Millerite line to figure out that that's close of probation is what I'm saying. I mean, or if you look at the line of the Millerites, you will be able to come up to know that, okay, I mean, the mistake was made, but I'm just saying if maybe looking at the line of the Millerites, we can know that maybe we should not have made that mistake.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
when we drew these lines, what did we put in parallel to this in our charts that we did? What did we put in parallel to October 22nd? we had these charts, remember, mirrored line and 144,000, or the today's line. What did we put here in parallel to October 22nd? Sunday law. Yes, we had, this is where we have it from. Midnight cry, Sunday law. This is how we put it. We realize, no, this can't do that. It's midnight cry, close of probation. You have in this line, the Sunday law is the close of probation in this line, right? It's the close of probation. But this is not midnight, this is Panium. All right? Only if you mix it up and say Panium is midnight, then there's a midnight cry, and then there's a Sunday law. You will find midnight cry, Sunday law, but you don't have this. Panium is Panium. This is the midnight cry. This is Sunday law, but the Sunday law is not the Sunday law. Sunday law is close probation. All right? For them. Are you seeing it? Does it make sense? I find it super interesting. In my opinion, this is amazing. I like it a lot. What I like so much about this is, I think it's very clear. It's complicated a little bit because we need to get used to it. You know, we need to teach it. We need to repeat it, and until it becomes already. Once again, it becomes familiar to us. But so far, I think we can already see. Wow, it's very clear. We do not have the issues that we had in the past, where we have some things that we could not really explain so well. Yes, my brother.
I was just going to say it's interesting how this isn't the first time that the information has been correct, but the labeling has been wrong. It's happened in the past too.
You're thinking of something specific?
Yeah, but I can't remember it right now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Is there not a second coming from the right?
I wasn't sure about that, what that would be. I think we can put the date there. I have a date in my mind. You have any date as a suggestion? Someone has a suggestion here? What is the next date in line after October 22nd?
Isn't that 1850,
1850, right?
Yeah.
Would it make sense? I think this is when he enters into covenant with his people. Yes? Everything is clear, everything is resolved, the waymarks are established, the foundations are established, the pillars are established. You know, people are ready. You know, he's entering into covenant.
When you put the chiasms of the 2520 up there, it tends to point towards 1863 for the second king. The early 19 years, when you mirror it on this end.
The 2520 chiasm. So you're saying, take the 2520, then you have here 19 years, and then you have the 65 years, and this was 742, this was 723, 677, right? Then you have your 19, 65, and this was 1798, 1844, and 1863. It's the beginning of the first 2520 ends here, and it's the beginning of the second 2520 which ends here. And this event is parallel to this event.
Elder Jeff and Brother Parmenter both do that.
Yes, but I do not remember the connection. Can you say it again? How would you relate this to this?
Just to fulfill that mirror, if it was a date before 1863, you wouldn't have the mirror there. If it was 1850 or 1856, you wouldn't have the mirror.
But is it? I really don't know. I haven't thought about it at all. But is this line part of this line? I mean, is this line here? I recognize, of course, 46 years here. It's just this history. I don't know if this line is speaking about this history. But yeah, I'm open. I don't know. I don't know if this is 1850 does make sense to me because the covenant is established. Because the Lord enters into covenant, this makes sense to me in terms of the second coming. Yes, 144,000. But if you say 1863, how would you relate it in terms of the event, the second coming? Second coming was 1863.
Well, not that it was the second coming, just that that's when it would have been if it was going to be.
Would have been.
But from 50 to 56, there's a downgrading of our doctrines. By 50, we have all of our doctrines, and then we start backpedaling on some of our beliefs. And by 1863, we fully decided, no, we don't believe in the 2520.
Okay.
But had we not gone in that direction?
So here's a question mark, something we can investigate. Yes? Yeah. I get your point, but I don't know. Any other question?
I would tend to point towards 1850 myself, just because I think it's in 1850 something. Ellen White says that Jesus could have come ere of this. She wrote something, I can't remember. I remember reading it, but I can't remember where it's at right off the top of my head. Jesus could have come ere this. So that means before, when she wrote it in mid-50s. And so I've always thought 1850, but there's people that think differently and they're above my pay grade. So I don't know everything in the message. I've only been in it a couple years, so I'm still learning things, and maybe there's things floating around in their head that I don't know.
Yeah. So information that they use in order to establish this date. Yes, right. I don't know. I don't know if there's an opinion that we have as a movement. I don't know what we say about this. I know about the other dates. Yes, this is what we're saying, but I don't know about this date. I know. It's a blank for me. We can have a look and we can continue to think and study this out.
Is there anything
Perhaps.
else that the second coming is other than God is going into covenant with his people?
Well,
that would be up with 1850. So, and it's not like you can have it. You can have two second comings. You're gonna have either one, right? So it's either some of those things where it's either or. It can't be 1850 or 63. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to see.
of course.
Is there anything else other than God going into covenant to which you could maybe base it to be 1863? Because we know in 1863 God's people were just they went out of covenant, and the only thing I can think of that is also at the second coming, all of God's children, so some of God's children don't make heaven. They're not covenant, right? So if you look at it in that way, yeah, you can say okay, 1863, but then it's not God's chosen people. It's like everybody you have to look at in that picture, right? So that's maybe the only inclination I would, at this point in time, I could link or tie into it being 1863. But I think like right now in this present moment, right now, I would lean more towards it being 1850 because that's what the second coming is more so being about, not going into covenant.
Your question just makes me lean a little bit more towards 1863 now,
Okay.
because your question is there any other characteristic of the second coming? And one thing I can think of is it's the end of history. And this is where the history ends. The end. Okay, there's nothing more. And the mirrored history, where does it end? 1863, I think, would be a good waymark to say this is where the history ends and the Adventist church history begins. So this is the end, and this is a turning point. There's no returning from that point on.
I see. Yeah.
Something what we have been seeing. This is a decision they took. This is where the winds come in, and when the wind pushed him into another direction.
Actually,
Knidos.
That actually
Right.
makes sense because the second coming is the manifestation of the executive judgment. So I think
Mhm.
more than God going into covenant with his
Mhm.
people, he's given his executive judgment, which is what happened
Mm.
to the church. I mean, they kind of made the decision for what it would be because they, like Brother James said, all the stuff he said. So they basically received their reward because they decided not to be in that covenant forever. So I don't know. I see what you're saying.
Yes. As a new leadership, then everything
Yeah.
changes.
And that was
Someone else wants to have some thoughts.
One more point. When God goes into covenant with his people, doesn't he allow time of testing?
Say that again.
When God goes into covenant with his people, doesn't he allow a time of testing?
Afterwards. Okay, so if it would be 1850, it wouldn't be, there must be something afterwards. This is here the end, so, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe this is far-fetched, but I can say, yeah, even when you go to covenant with God and you choose to keep your own wife, you're continuously choosing because you don't go to heaven and start sinning because you're in heaven. You're always making that choice, or you have made that choice so much that it's just your norm to kind of be that way. So
When are the priests sealed? At which point are the priests sealed? Which point, or are they in covenant? Yeah, when they cannot change it any longer. They don't want to, and they can't also. 18? 19, yes. I think this is what I also would say. So this adds to what you're saying. Here's the covenant, or he's the sealing, and there's some time afterwards. So if we put 1850 here, there would be some time missing afterwards. I think we have a couple of arguments now that tend to underline 1863 rather than 1850. Yes, Brother Douglas.
With regards to 2019, the 2019 is close of probation for the priests.
2019?
Yes.
Yes.
And from my understanding, 2019, Jesus does not stand up. Jesus stands up, Daniel 12 plus 1, at the close of probation, at the general close of probation. So that means from 2019 to the general close of probation. When Jesus stands up, it's when he says, let the just be just, the righteous be righteous. So then at 2019, it's close of probation. What does it mean? Close of probation. Like from my understanding is that it's a close of probation for foolish priests.
Okay, this is another, I don't know if this is another point, but I perceive it as another issue, another question. Because what we all know, is that Michael stands up here, right? This is where Michael stands up. And what does he do? He closes probation for humankind. So how can we say here does the probation close for the priest when we know that this is what he's going to do here? Yes, so there is probation for the whole world, there is probation still up to this point. This is why this line lines up with this line. This is the last group on earth. This is not which haven't decided yet, and so their line has to end up here when he stands up. So and then your reasoning continues, and you say, okay, so if this is still, there's still, Christ is still my mediator, what does it mean for me?
Yes.
So he's still mediating, he's still interceding for me, he can still intercede for me. For this reason, you say the door closes here for the priest, but specifically for the foolish priest. Okay, I know that, I think this is something that we are in this movement right now discussing everywhere. Right, so I haven't intended to put this in words. I don't know if this is how we can, if this is as we can say it. But everyone gets what he's saying? What do you think about it?
I kind of look at it as it's the close of probation for, and it's similar to a close of probation for the institution. It's for a group. It's not for a person. Individually, it's for a group of people. Whoever makes up the priest, you're not going to be able to be in that group after that time. You're either in that group at that time or you're not.
2019.
Just like the general close of probation came in AD 34 for the Jews. Not every Jew was lost at that time. The Jews as a nation, the probation was over. But we're told that Spirit prophecy tells us that the children of that nation, they were given until the destruction of Jerusalem, as an opportunity to come out of their parents' decision, so to speak. That's my ad-libbing, my paraphrasing. And so that's the way that I look at it, that it's as a group, not as a personal, because we know Jesus is still interceding.
I don't know if we have phrased this in our movement yet, how this works. I know that we are speaking about it. I think we are trying to find out. Perhaps it's like as you say, but I don't know. Maybe next week with Brother Pamina we will have a look into these things. Maybe here's more clarity on how we could phrase this. I don't know what are the implications if we say it like you say. Kind of makes sense to me, yes. But I'm not fully convicted that this is how we can say it, how we can phrase it. I remember Sister Tess has been saying, yes, this is here. This is a prophetic test. This is a prophetic sin that we can commit here, and we should not. We have not to commit this prophetic sin. It's not a moral test. Okay, the moral test. The implication, what she says, I understand, continues up to this point. So Sister Tess says 2019 is a prophetic test. Prophetic test. It's not a moral test. It's not about if you are still inclined to do this or that sin, But then again, this should have been resolved over here already, right, with the baptism, the moral issue. The moral sin has to be, at the baptism, should have been get rid of. Anyway, so this is a prophetic test. It's a prophetic sin that you can commit, that you have to avoid, that you cannot, you should not commit in order to belong to the priests. It's not about the moral issues or our moral struggles or problems. That's how I understand her. But I have not a lot of security because we have not been saying very much about it yet. I'm rather cautious here to explain in my words how this is. But I think this is something that we are going to resolve. This is something that we are on the way to get clarity on these details. First we needed to lay out these lines. We needed to add the line of institution. Now we have clarity on these lines. Now we can continue to draw some further conclusions. Also, we have the logic of Boston, Concord, Exeter. These are three waymarks in the Midnight Cry. So these 3 waymarks, we should expect we can find them here as well, right? And then we have to speak about it. What are these 3 waymarks in these lines? What is Concord here, 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 etc. So there are more things to come. These lines are not yet finalized and sealed. There's more interesting study to be done. But thank you for the questions and for this. It's good if something is opened up. There's still a way to go. Any other comment or question? Yes.
Is there no Sunday law in that bottom line?
That was my question.
What's that? The next one?
Okay, the institution, or wait,
Yeah.
you mean the Nephilims or the?
For the Alexandria ship? Do you want to answer that?
Midnight is what parallels the Sunday law. The top line, you got Sunday law, which would be Midnight Cry. I mean midnight.
So this is the problem all the time. There's no Sunday law here in this line, right?
2014.
Yeah, 2014 means Sunday law, but you do not see written Sunday law here. Same thing here, you do not see written Sunday law here, but this doesn't mean that that midnight is not Sunday law. Midnight means something. They mean something, right? And I think then you take this line, and this line helps you to explain what these symbols here, what they mean, because they are what these events mean. And I think if we see this logic, then we see that this here, midnight, is the Sunday law. So therefore this has to be the Sunday law. But I'm not so sure about that, nevertheless, because there's a problem, I think. Well,
So here's a question maybe to maybe draw something out, because there is no the line for the institution. I don't know if there's supposed to be a second coming or not. Because then would that help in the labeling of the waymarks? Because that's for the institution, so I'm just thinking, okay, there should not be a second coming.
so the question is, where's the Sunday law here then in this history, right? And suggestion is to take this line and apply it here. But this would make Boston the Sunday law. And this doesn't make sense either, right? Because this here is Boston, and this is Exeter. And the Sunday law cannot come before that, right? It cannot be Boston at the same time, the Sunday law. Or can it? I don't know. I don't know how to answer. Yes. One thing is, they are not. The journey has not ended yet. Yeah, but I don't know if this helps, because they still need to go to Rome, right? But I don't know if this helps. I don't know if this is correct to bring this into this history. I haven't thought about it. No, this is my problem now. He is saying, I get it. This is Sunday law from here, but then this is Boston. This is 9/11. Sunday law after 9/11, right? Doesn't fit. I think shipwreck is Sunday law, but it's not the correct word. It's close of probation.
In the big line, the shipwreck is Sunday law.
Yeah.
But it's the ship's close of probation. It's the ship's close of probation. But in the big line, for where we want to know when it happens, it is Sunday law. But as you move back, Boston is as much a label as Sunday law is. So Boston isn't really what's going on right there. You know, it's
Just trying to approach it from what happens at Boston, you know. What happens? There's still a cry made. There's a message given to the ship. All right, so this is midnight. And then well, I don't know.
So what happens from Sunday law to close of probation with the U.S. on the big line? The U.S. goes down and the UN goes up. And so technically at the Sunday law you have a message too. The country's over with. The church is over with. It's a final proclamation of an event that can't be changed.
Well, what problem would it be to say this is the Sunday law, the national Sunday law, right? Is it what you're saying?
The only problem to call it that is it's a close of probation.
This is what you mean, right?
Right.
You have United Nations. Yeah, you have the United States.
Right.
So what is the only problem?
Our labeling seems to be the only problem.
Because isn't it at the Sunday law that the probation of the U.S. is closed? That's it,
Yeah,
right?
it's irrevocable.
Yeah, that's it. So when that happens, we know what they do, and that's it. Probation is closed, and it's not going to change. So it's just you cannot use the two labels on the same place. Oh, no, you can. That's what I was asking earlier on. If you have a second coming on the line for the institution, like at the end, like so the way you have up there for the 144,000, you also have it there for the institution?
I'm struggling a little bit here. I'm struggling a little bit with putting this as a parallel, as the same line as these lines. Why? Because these lines are the lines of an individual, always. This is the line of the lifetime of a person. This not. Yes, it is. It's more than that. It's the history of an institution which spans over hundreds of years. Okay, so to find the same logic, it doesn't seem, because what is this then? And what is this? We have the same right to ask, you know, is this, where's the second advent? What waymark is this? What waymark is this? What waymark is this? I think we can't do it. It's just a different line, you know.
Is the line of the Millerites a line of people or a line of institution or both? Because in a sense, so when we said, so we were talking about 1815, 1863, so just giving that, what we want to find out about that, it sounds to me like it's an organization, right? We're now dealing with, right, when we said in 1850 they would have gone into covenant with God. I mean, the Millerites, but if you choose 1863, you see the organization, you know, how that's when their executive judgment is manifested because they've chosen to just not agree with prophecies and all the other stuff. So
it's not the line of an institution, because what institution is involved in the mirrored line? What institution is this history about? The Reformed Church or the Reformed churches, the Church of the Reformation, right? The Millerites were all from Methodists or Lutherans or whatever. And their history did not begin in 1798, begin in 1500 something. So it can't be the line of an institution. It's the line of individuals that happen to live at that point in time. You have the line of the institution, then you have to include the beginning. This is why this line here is institution. Here it begins. Here it begins, there it ends. It's the whole story. It's not a part of the story. And so for this reason, I think we cannot take this and put it here, because it's a different. It doesn't make sense. There's more here in this line which does not exist in this line. Yes.
Is it possible to apply the principle that says that we shouldn't use the example of this gathering to govern a gathering? I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. Yes.
So maybe if we can identify whether the line of this institution is a gathering or a scattering, and then identify the same thing with the line of 144,000, whether it's a gathering or a scattering, then we'll know for sure whether we can put them together or whether we're actually supposed to just leave them alone and keep them separate.
But this principle,
Is that apply?
maybe you mean the right thing, but I think we can't say this. We can't apply this here, because it's not just different circumstances. It's a totally different issue. The history of an institution as the history of an individual. Like the reform lines are always. These are reform lines, by the way. Yes.
Right.
Is this a reform line?
Let me try to restate it.
This is not a reform line, right? This is just a line, a history of an institution.
But what happens to the institution at the end? What happens to the ship?
Yeah, it disappears. It finishes. It ends.
Is shipwreck a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad, I would say.
So, is it a scattering or a gathering? Like, don't use it in the sense of the word, like the meaning. Let's look at it as
You mean
good
it's
thing,
a scattering?
bad
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So it can be a scattering.
Yes.
With the line of 144,000, you know it's not a scattering. It's a gathering.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we cannot. I'm with you on keeping
Mhm.
them separate. But I was trying to figure out in my mind the principle why we keep them separate, and it just came to mind that we're not supposed to use examples in a scattering to govern a gathering.
I still think you want to say the right thing, but I think the example is not correct to apply this, because the scattering works like the gathering, right? They're both 25-20. They both are, they both have the 46. They both have the 19, right? So they are. They are very similar, but they're different because it means different things. It applies to different people, but it's not different results, different outcome. This is just a totally different line. Yeah. All right. Are you happy so far with the results? So I think it's interesting for us. There's more to study and to find out. I can live with that so far. I can live with that, thinking this is just a very different line. It makes sense to me. Here would be interesting to nail this down. Actually, by now I think I'm tending towards 63 as well. But we'll see. The rest of it, for me, it means more clarity than before.
So just to ask, remember we're looking at the errors. So where was the error?
Half wrong, half right.
Yeah, where's the
Yeah. This is one of the half wrong, half right.
No. No, the half wrong, half right it's a different logic behind it. Half wrong and half right. There is no half wrong and half right in every line. Yes, there's a line of success which does not have a half wrong and a half right. Our line is a line of success which just does not have a half wrong and a half right at the same time. There's a right and there's a wrong, yes, but there's not a half right and a half wrong. This is a different thing. Here, the error is midnight cry, Sunday law.
It's out of order.
Yes. Because this does not work, it does not exist. It's midnight cry, close of probation. And then the other thing that we learn, by the way, is that we have a fifth line. These are 4 lines and we have the 5th line. It's the line of the institution, which is different than these lines.
So what's the name of the institution in our time?
It's the church structure. Or the corporation, church corporation. And this is not limited to 1863, yes, but the whole history of this church structure from the beginning to the end. All right? So let's close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we have been able to study through your grace and interesting things we could see and discuss. There are certain points where we wish we would have and more evidence how we should express what happens at that waymark. Please help us. Please help that this time He may serve and may help us to come under conviction. And therefore have more clarity and also more conviction in our message that we share with our brethren. In Christ's name, please bless everyone, bless these days that we are together here. Amen.